Welcome to Season 1, Episode 8 of Pockets of Joy with Niamh O'Connell, and thank you for tuning in. This podcast has become so much more successful than I ever dreamed. Joining us today from Canada is optician and entrepreneur Ciaran McCarthy, who owns the sustainable business Eyeful Things, selling vintage deadstock eyewear. Ciaran has followed his intuition and created a career path that suits his strengths, with a kind of underground and very unique way of getting his products out there. For anyone who wants something different to the 9 to 5, this episode is for you. Check my YouTube channel for the video version.
Hello.
Hooray!
There we go.
How are you?
Not too bad. How you been?
Great, thank you. How is life? You look very professional there with your setup.
I know. Yeah, I couldn't figure out where to do it. I was like, I'll just do it at the office here. Yeah. There might be a little bit of like people in and out of the other, because I'm in an old Victorian house, and there's a bunch of different businesses in this in this house.
It's
So
gorgeous. I saw it on your Instagram when I was researching. It's a beautiful house. It's like a doll's house, isn't it?
yeah, it's yeah, exactly. And I think it was made in 1870. And I'm so lucky because everyone that's here is so unique. So there's a naturopath, osteopath, SIBO clinic, therapist, massage therapist, tattoo artist, esthetician. Like there's so many people in this one little old Victorian home. So yeah, no, I got so lucky getting into here, and the people have been fantastic. Yeah, I know we just moved in early April.
That is gorgeous. So look, we've hopped straight into the chit chat.
Yeah.
Hey, to everybody who's listening or watching, Ciarán is my husband's extremely talented first cousin. And your parents emigrated to Canada, when was it, the 80s?
Yeah, 85. So I think I was 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
and you're in New Brunswick, isn't it?
Yeah. So we moved we were living in Walkingstown, and then we moved to Sussex, New Brunswick, which I have to give my parents credit. Like my mom, like it was like much more like such a culture shock, because I think we moved from Dublin, and then Sussex at that point only had one traffic light.
Oh my God.
So, and we were living in this motel for the first little while, and yeah, I think we're up to 3 traffic lights in Sussex now, where my parents live. And but no, yeah, it was a fantastic little town to grow up in, and but I still had that connection with going back to Ireland every summer, which like looking back on it now, I was the luckiest kid, to have that.
You had a bit of both.
For me now, I'm 42, and I can't even imagine. I think my mom was in her mid-20s when she did it, and I can't even imagine like leaving everyone back in Ireland.
Yeah, because she was from a really close-knit family as well.
Close-knit family, and then coming all the way to Canada, like leaving that. And I mean,
that's for love.
You do it is. Love. That takes such courage.
Yeah.
And again, only now am I realizing like how much sacrifice that was to do that.
Yeah, she's a great feisty lady, your mom.
Yeah, no, she's the best. Know, it's one of those things where I don't go home too often, or if I do and I meet some younger kids, they don't know who I am, because haven't lived in that small town for 16 years, actually probably more than that. But I'm like, I bet you know my mom. And they're like, who's that? I'm like, Miss McCarthy. And they're like, oh my God. And they always have stories about her, because my mom worked in the school system.
Yeah.
And they always, oh, we love your mom. She's like, yay big. And, she's so feisty and stuff like this. And they always talk about her accent,
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
And you always struck me, because I remember meeting you. It must have been the year 2000 when I started dating Barry.
Yeah.
You would have been probably 18, because I think Barry was just turned 19 that year.
Yeah.
And you were back for a visit. And I remember you were so damn cool. You had this cool attitude, and you were wearing a cool necklace made of hemp. And I was like, what's hemp? I'd never even heard of it before. Man. And I just remember you had this really cool, stylish look to you, like a hipster before hipsters were even a thing or something.
Yeah, maybe.
And I think what you do now, like owning this glasses business, and you have to describe it properly for my listeners. But I think that seems like a really natural progression for you, because you've always been into, like, from just the outside, obviously there's way more to you, but what I've seen is that you've always been really stylish. You've also always had an eye on eco-friendliness, and it seems like you've just made all those passions into your day job now. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. For me, I've always loved, I've always been a big I guess over here we call like thrifting, you know, going to secondhand stores and these kind of things. And I always loved like old fashioned. And the only way to get old fashioned was to go and try to like kind of find it, kind of root for it. So for me, like I love finding an old jacket that's made in the 1960s or anything like that. So with eyewear, it was the same thing. I became an optician only 6 years ago. And at first I was just working it as a job. And then I started looking at like looking back at old eyewear and then going to like secondhand stores and trying to find it just for myself, putting my prescription into it and then like wearing it around and people are like, oh, I love your glasses. And I started looking at the materials and how it was made and just that old way of making eyewear. I really fell in love with it, even the feel of it and the heaviness. So yeah, then I kind of was like, do other people want this? Is this something I can actually kind of turn into a business? Because it's a blending of everything that I love and also finding it for other people and then just kind of like, you know, putting it on people's faces and them to like be really like excited as well, because there's a whole backstory of like, you know, this is made in 1960s or this is made in 1950s or 1980s or whatever it is. And yeah, my biggest fear was always like, am I going to find enough of it? And through social media, I found so many people that are collectors of this type of eyewear.
So
And
it's not
so,
all you.
yeah,
Am I right? You buy in dead stock, so stuff that was
I
bought
do.
and
Yeah.
never sold. So a lot of it is
Yeah.
brand new, but never, but from like the 60s, as you say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so these used to be from the 1950s, you know? So this is like
Oh
a
wow.
1950s piece right here. Um, this is dead stock from the 1960s, like almost like Audrey Hepburn
Oh, I love
kind of
them.
style. Yeah, glass lenses and stuff like that. So yeah, finding these beautiful eyewear that were created mostly in Europe or like North America, that have just been sitting in maybe boxes or God knows where. And I was like, you know, nowadays you can go online and get a pair of glasses or you can go to an optical and there's nothing that's really in between that. So I wanted to create something that was like really unique and something that I really care about. Like, as weird as it sounds, like I care about this eyewear. I'm actually sometimes sad when a piece leaves because like I look at them, like I look at the craftsmanship and I look at the cut. I'm like, I'll never be able to get this again. Maybe
Yeah.
this specific pair is a one of one.
Yeah.
And so
I
when it's
get that.
gone, it's like, yeah.
You have a real
So
collector's eye when and you're really curating a product line. So
yeah,
obviously every piece that comes in, you've chosen it specifically for something. And it must
yeah,
be sad to let it go too. But so
yeah.
talk to me about the customer experience when people find you and they're looking for you to make either what do? You do normal glasses and sunglasses too, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. So I do normal glasses and sunglasses, like prescription or non-prescription. Um, it's been kind of fun to get people to kind of like find out who I am. Because I mean, for the first 2 years of doing this, I was working a day job at the same time. So I was only doing this on the evenings and weekends because starting out, you don't know if this is going to work or not. And so I basically hustled my way into kind of being like, okay, work a day job, 8:30 to 4:30 every single day. Evenings and weekends was doing the optical. And I was doing the optical out of my apartment for the first little while. And then doing pop-ups as well around my little city. So in coffee shops or vintage stores. And I grew it that way where people were like, what is this? And then I had to do my spiel, like, no, this is actually licensed optical. I know this is very different. You know, I can put prescription to it. I can put it through your insurance. This is just a different kind of idea of how to get eyewear. And once some people started grabbing it and putting it in, like wearing it, other people would be like, oh, where'd you get those glasses? Or people were like, you know, do you have a few minutes to talk about how I got these glasses? I had one person, she was like, every time people asked her about her eyewear, she was like, do you have 5 minutes? I just want to talk to you about how I got these and who I got these from. Yeah, because
That's so
people
cool.
cared about it as much as I did, because again, it's a unique pair of glasses that no one else is going to have. So, you know, it's something that people see it, people feel good with glasses, and I think it's one of those kind of like rare like items where people see it and it can change your whole personality, you know? So with these eyewear, it's been like that, and getting it on people's faces, they've been my biggest way to connect with other customers.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And how do you advertise? I see you have an Instagram and your name is
Eyeful Things. So EYEFULTHINGS. I was trying to think of something that's old, but also kind of vintagey. But I started looking at like the old Stephen King book, Needful Things.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I kind of played on those words a little bit. And yeah, so social media has been my biggest way, because I needed to find people that were younger first to kind of go with this, to gravitate towards this first. So people in their younger, I'm 42, so I still consider myself young, but yeah, like mid-20s to 30s, people that kind of loved kind of thrifting kind of style in a way, people that want to take a chance on something that is a bit older and kind of have something unique. And from then it has grown.
It's really word of mouth, which is so great because it really means your customers are happy and they're promoting it for you.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah. And I
So how
mean,
long is it between, sorry, how long is it between them finding the frames, say at a pop-up in a coffee shop, and then how long does it take you to make the frames and till they're actually wearing them?
I'm so lucky. I got in with a great lab in Toronto, because for me, it was one of those things where I was like, I want them to care about this eyewear as much as I do, because it's so vintage. And so I found this little boutique lab that does all my cutting for me. And usually about a week, maybe a week and a half. My turnaround is really quick, but we made a deal that every Friday I do my shipping, and then by the end of the following week, usually it's back to me. So my turnaround is really, really good. It helps that like on the phones, I've always been really nice to them, and like we have good conversations, and yeah, they're willing to go the extra mile for me, because also they love the idea of what I'm doing, because they never heard about this kind of thing before.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's just been one of those things, like talking to the owner, and for them it's kind of fun to see what kind of pair they're going to put a prescription into.
Yeah.
And then when it comes back, I have to check it. So this is like a lensometer that I kind of look through to make sure the prescription is right, make sure that everything is on point, and then I can call the person to dispense it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I see there's a real trend with Gen X or whatever they're called, the younger ones, the millennials, and not so much my generation, but I think some of us have always been had one eye on sustainability. But
yeah,
I think there's like, my son is 16 and he will only buy thrifted clothes. And I keep saying to him, you're not going to get everything you need in a vintage store or in a charity shop. But he's insisting he does not want to buy fast fashion. He does not want to buy anything that's been made in the third world under bad conditions. So I think I'm really heartened to see that the younger generations are not the consumers that we were growing up in the 90s and the 2000s, when it felt like there was another planet to throw our waste onto and we could just do whatever we wanted for the fun of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's obviously, you're getting in there in the right demographic as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's been, I think too, because like when you go thrifting, you don't know where you're going to find, right? So, I mean, the whole thing is like the adventure of it all.
Yeah.
And I think that plays a huge role in it, because, and it was one of those things, like, you don't want your items to own you, per se, but at the same time, when you find something that was made, back 30, 40, 50 years ago, and you might be able to find it again, you're going to really cherish that. And there is that feel to it that like makes you feel good, it makes you feel special. So, and it's not fast fashion that can be like worn a bunch, washed, doesn't feel right, and it gets thrown away. It's like finding a pair of Doc Martens and then on the bottom scene made in England, where you're like, oh, these are the original, there aren't ones that are made in China anymore. These can be resold and everything like that. So there's just more of a history with it, and there's more kind of like, I don't know, just that feel of like an individuality per se.
Yeah.
And thrifting, I mean, I know thrifting is huge, like around the world now, and I know like some people are making like a lot of money with it. Some of it, the prices have gone up a bunch in the different, secondhand stores and stuff like that. But there is people still curating really good things, and these stores have been so important in my push for my business, because they want to bring me in, because we all work together in that way. And yeah, so they've been my biggest cheerleaders as well. Like I got to give, the thrift stores, yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So
and talk to me about materials. How have the materials changed from, say, the pre-2000s to nowadays when you buy glasses off the rack in a normal? What's the difference? Is it weight and quality?
Yeah, so there is a quality with it. I mean, there is still people nowadays making beautiful eyewear. You mainly have to go to maybe an independent optical to find that. But to go to like a normal box store one, you're gonna find stuff that's like mainly just like cut out in China, just like punched out of by a machine. The old stuff, yeah, I mean, there's actual like this little, it's almost like a little like a metal piece. On newer ones, sometimes I just glued in to like make it look like it's like a rivet. This is a full rivet all the way through to the other side, so it really holds the temples or the arms in. The hinge on this is a 7-barrel hinge, so it's a really long barrel all the way through. So this pair from here is from the 1960s, and I mean they're as good then as they are now. And people back then, it wasn't like every 2 years they got a new pair of glasses. They might have had their glasses for 5-6 years. So those had to last, So the acetate that was used to make these glasses, it's definitely a thicker acetate. And that's the material that was used back then. And it's still used today in high quality eyewear. The pair I'm wearing right now, actually for myself, it's an Irish company called Pupils. Yeah. I think they're from Gorey.
Cool.
Yeah, so I have to give a shout out to Niall O'Sullivan, who owns this company. He gets his frames made in France and Italy, but he's making frames the old way, so there is still pockets of people doing that, but it's not on the masses, where it used to be, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, like eyewear was made, really well back then.
And it's such an intimate thing. I can imagine if you're, now I don't wear glasses, and I'm kind of, I've always, when I was a kid, I always wanted glasses and crutches and braces, right? I always thought they were like really cool accessories. So I never got the crutches, touch wood, not yet. I did have braces, hated the braces, major sensory issues. Now I know I'm on the spectrum. I did not sleep for those years I was wearing braces, especially having them tightened and stuff. It was absolute hell, sensory hell. But I'm hoping I'll need glasses in the next few years, because my parents needed glasses in their late 40s and I'm 46.
Yeah, well, what happens there is called presbyopia. So it's one of those things where the muscles in our eyes stop converging as well as they once did. So that near vision ends up going.
Yes.
So you end up if you're trying to read something, you're holding it away like this to read it, instead of right here where where it's like, oh, it's a little bit blurry. Oh, that feels better. So yeah, that happens to everyone. That's something called presbyopia. So even people that have like LASIK surgery, eventually they're going to need glasses, not for their distance, but just for the near. So yeah, but I mean, glasses are.
Say if I wanted glasses, I would want them to be a fashion accessory and obviously do the job of helping my vision. So could I go to you with my prescription from another optician and say, this is
once you get your prescription, it's your prescription. I even do glasses for people that, some people bring in their old pair of glasses to me, and I'm like, I'll put prescription into the old pair, because I'd rather have those being used again than thrown out. So and usually what I do is like, I look at them like, do you want me to clean these up a bit? And I have like, I sand them down, I polish them, I make them like sparkle again for the person when they come back. So it might be an old pair of glasses that they had for like 4 or 5 years, but I can like make it kind of look a little bit newer again. Yeah, and there's not a lot of people that do that. They kind of find a reason why you should buy a new pair from them. Again.
What's the most satisfying part of your job? Is it amazing when someone receives them and you get that joy of hearing their feedback? Is that the best part of it for you?
Yeah, people come in, they've gone to so many places before and they couldn't really find anything they're looking for, and then here they found 6 or 7 pairs and they're having a tough time deciding. So sometimes with those people, what I do is like, I say, listen, take them home try on different clothing, because sometimes what you're wearing is going to dictate, you know, the pair of glasses that you pick. So you want to make sure that you really love them, because you're going to wear these for the next so many years.
Yeah.
So, and then people are like, really? I'm like, yeah. Like, what are you going to do? Steal them? Like, come on. Like, you have a prescription to them anyway. You're going to be back to me. So I said, take them home, try on a bunch of clothing, show some friends, like, see what feels right for you. See how it makes you feel. Do you want a pair that stands out, or do you want a pair that blends in? Because you can do both. You know, you can have a pair that when you go to a grocery store and you're in line, people go like, oh my God, your glasses, you know, where'd you get those? Or do you want a pair that is kind of like a little bit more subtle, you know? So, you know, or do you want, you know, like for me, my pairs, I try to make it a little bit more affordable so that people could afford two pairs. And that's been a nice thing too, where people be like, you know, I've had someone who could never afford prescription sunglasses because their prescription was so high. And normally their pair of glasses would be 500, 600, 700, you know, because their prescription was so high. And for me, if someone has a high prescription like that, I'd rather cut the price down a lot. And I'm not making like maybe a lot on it, but for them, it's more of a medical issue that like they can't see without these glasses. So I make it a little bit more affordable for those type of people. And he was able to afford a pair of prescription sunglasses as well for the first time in his life. And he was almost in tears from it, because it's like he's never been able to afford that.
I think that's what people get when they go to a small retailer like yourself. You have that flexibility with price, and you're always more interested in the customer walking away happy. Whereas a big box store, they're not going to come down in price. They don't care if you buy them or not, because they'll have someone else in the door in a minute. Whereas you really want to keep your customers happy.
Yeah. See, I'm stubborn. I that's one thing I know about myself now. I am, I don't know, maybe it's still Connor in me. I don't know. I'm a stubborn person. So you know, I've only been doing this. I've only been an optician for 6 years. And I went from a box store, I worked at a doctor's office. I was a district manager for a spot for a while. And I always like, we can do better. Like, there was always something that I was like, no, like, I don't like the experience that some of these people are having. I don't like that, like, this frame is breaking on the face, because I feel it's a cheap frame, but we're selling it for so many hundreds of dollars. And this is a medical device on a person's face that, you know, they're depending on. It really made me look at the whole demographic of eyewear and being like, okay, where can I fit in here where I'm happy, but also it improves the lives of the people that are coming to see me. So that's been, for me, the biggest, like, every day waking up being like, okay, what do I need to do today?
So when did you make this your full-time day job and give up the other day jobs?
October, 2023. So just not too long ago. Yeah. So this came about in May 2021. I remember I was at like a little pub bar with my friend, and I had been collecting eyewear for this like purpose of having this optical, but I was still having so much doubt, you know, like, is this something that people are going to want? And my friend was like, he said, circle on a calendar a date. And he goes, on that day, you either started or you don't. And he's like, it could be 2 weeks away, it could be 3 weeks away, but you need to circle on a calendar and you need to, you know, be like, this is the day. So yeah, I did that. And then I started off slow. I kind of like found my labs and found some material that I needed, and contacted opticals that were unfortunately going out of business because of COVID. So them going out of business, and some of them were just like, listen, I've been an optical for 30, 40 years, independent. I'm tired. And so I was able to grab their machines. And then from there, I started off slowly, just doing little pop-ups and then working the day job for an insurance company, just doing emails all day long. And so I was working from home, of course, just doing emails all day long. 4:30, stop, eat, and then get ready for people coming to my apartment to look at eyewear. Like, my apartment looked like an optical. I basically lived in an optical.
That's so
and cool. I don't live on the greatest street. I will say that in Moncton, I don't live on a street that's very desirable. So that has been one of the funniest things is telling people, it's like, listen, yeah, just come over to Loot Street. And they're like, yeah. I said, no, everything's good. Like, this is legit, and having people come over and like, look at eyewear for an hour or so, and then leaving and making jokes, being like, thanks for not murdering me, or like, thanks for not robbing me, and like these kind of things. And my thing was always to make people feel comfortable, because I can go anywhere with this eyewear. It was mobile. So, I'm pushing 6'3", I'm a male, so it can be intimidating for some people that don't know me.
I'll tell you, I would
Maybe
not
when
have
you
gone
meet.
to your apartment to get glasses.
No, that's the
I would
thing.
have brought a
So
bodyguard with me.
exactly. So I was always like very much like, when people messaged me that didn't know me, they were like, hey, we heard about that you sell glasses. How does this work? And I said, listen, wherever you feel comfortable, we can meet. I can come to your place. We can meet at a coffee shop that I know, or there's a few pubs that I know that are bars that like will host me that have been fantastic. You can come to my apartment. You can bring friends, like whatever you need to feel comfortable. Just and yeah, they did that.
You stuck that out, and now you've got your own brick and mortar place, as you say.
Yeah. So I'm by appointment only. I never want a brick and mortar. I never want something that I have to be here 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Not because of laziness or anything like this, but I want to still be mobile with this optical. So today, this afternoon, I'm going to a vintage store to do a pop-up
Excellent.
later on. I'm traveling around the province I'm in, so I could be, maybe this Friday or sometime next week, message another vintage store, be like, hey, would you want me to do a pop-up again? They could be 2 hours away. So I want to be able to like be mobile with this.
Yeah.
For me right now, it's just by appointment. People can come in. I give them about an hour. And that was something that I switched up as well, because at first I was thinking, okay, I'm just going to open this up, let anyone come in. But there's a real, with eyewear, it's on your face, you're looking at it. Sometimes you don't want the distractions of other people being in here that you don't know, because it's such a personal thing. So just doing these hour-long appointments with no rush, people can try on things. They're free to move around the whole space, and they can really just enjoy the process of it all.
Yeah.
If someone's like a new wearer too, they're a little bit more wary of putting on something, because like some people feel stupid wearing a pair of glasses for the first time, or they've never seen themselves in it, so they just like, it just doesn't feel comfortable for them. So sometimes I get them to try on like a really like different pair, something that kind of breaks the ice. So something like this, something that's like this is like a green pair, something that's like really stands out, kind of something really funny.
Yeah.
So it can, it breaks the ice a little bit, or like these ones, which is like a metal pair that's like got
Yeah.
such a unique shape to it, made in Italy. So get them to try these on, kind of break the ice, get them kind of get used to being a little bit silly wearing them on, and then we can kind of like navigate, from there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Has there been any standout customers that you've really felt like you really made a big difference for them? Say if they were quite reluctant, or a new wearer and really didn't like the fact that they had to wear glasses.
Yeah. I mean, from all my experience of working, I kind of know how to like slowly introduce pairs to people, because like initially sometimes people like, like a round pair of glasses, people are like, oh, I can't wear round. Like right away they want to go towards like a square frame. I'm like, yeah, great. So I say, like a pure acetate frame, like a plastic frame, is going to stand out a little bit more. Metal frames kind of like blend in a little bit more. So we start going slowly with that, and then I can kind of like navigate towards something that was a little bit, not, just a little bit more stylish, or a little bit more kind of like stand out. And I've had people be like leaving, being like, I had no idea that I was going to go for something like this, and it's amazing the confidence it can kind of give someone. It can change their whole kind of style.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that's important.
Yeah.
So
because it really has to boost your confidence rather than make you feel like, oh, I'm getting older, I'm needing glasses now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with me, there's so many different styles that I have here that you can really kind of have fun with it, or you can kind of, dress it down a bit. I actually have, looking around at right now, I probably have about maybe 200 250 glasses out, but I still have another 150 plus tucked away. Like
Wow.
I went on a mad kind of like, not spending, but kind of like being like, if I find a bunch of like vintage glasses, I'm like, well, I have to grab them, because I have this fear of like, of it ever running out. I mean, it won't, but I was just like, I just love the process of finding this stuff. So yeah, I have to figure out, I have to get more racks built and then like really try to like get them all out. But yeah, so you know, if someone can't find anything, like, well, don't worry, I have about another 150, 200 we can go through, you know. So it's, yeah, it's been fun to see. I've had a few musicians come through, and some of them have been like, listen, I've toured all around North America, I've toured into Europe, I've never seen a collection of eyewear like this before.
Wow.
And that made me feel really good. Yeah, that was like, okay, I'm on to something.
Yeah. And do you
know.
find you attract the same kind of customer? Are they all kind of creatives who come to you?
Yeah, initially it was, yeah, that's probably still probably about 80% of my clientele. I remember there was a film festival. I live in a province that's a mix of French and English, so it's a bilingual province. So people that can speak English here speak French, or people who speak French speak English. And the city I'm in, it's like a blending of that. So there's a film festival called FICFA that was put on, and I had people after that film festival come and see me, and they were like, every person I stopped and asked them about their glasses told me that they got the glasses from you. So I was like, okay, yeah. So that was one thing. So you know, a lot of the tattoo artists in town here, a lot of the barbers, a lot of the, you know, yeah, people in art and stuff like this are wearing like my, you know, my eyewear. Well, that was how I, you know, starting a business is so, I mean, I still don't know what I'm doing some days, and that's 100% the best part of it, because there's no roadmap for me to kind of like navigate. So for me, starting off, I was like, I need to go to places that I feel comfortable with, people that are in areas that I kind of know. So so starting off, that's how it started, was basically being like, okay, well, you know, I know a bunch of artists, and I know like going to coffee shops like this coffee shop, or I know like, you know, this barber shop, or, you know, so it's getting into places that you feel comfortable and selling to them first, and then kind of growing your confidence that way. And that's how I did this business, was that's how I started out, really, was finding my own kind of like people that I kind of feel comfortable with, and getting the positive reinforcement from them to keep going, to now sell to architects and sell to other kind of business owners, or even parents of these people that have now come see me. You know, like I sold a pair to a gentleman. He's I think he's in marketing. He had his parents come who are retired, who are, you know, live probably about an hour away in a little French village. Come see me, and I was like, okay, wow, like, and she picked out such a cool pair. Like, she picked out a pair that, you know, from her old pair to this pair, I wouldn't have gauged that she would have picked such a stunning like pair that really stands out, you know.
That's so
And
cool.
it just goes to show you, yeah, you know. And she was probably in her 60s, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. Oh, I've done birthday parties as well. Like,
oh wow.
you know, I had some ladies call me because they wanted to do see my eyewear, and I didn't know there was going to be a birthday party. So when I went in, there was of course drinks and there was cake, and I was like, what is this? And then they were like having drinks, and then I just brought all my eyewear, and they just were having a great time, just trying stuff on, laughing, you know. And they end up, I think I sold 5 pairs that evening. But you know, that showed me too. I was like, okay, like, this is kind of fun too.
Do you think that's what drew you to being an entrepreneur, was the fact that you could be your own boss, you're free to do that kind of stuff rather than be stuck for a 9 to 5 in the one place?
Yeah, no, I can't. I've tried to do the 9 to 5, and I mean, you know, for me, you know, I'm kind of stubborn, you know, so I always kind of look and be like, okay, well, how can I do better? You know, how can I do better for myself, and how can I do better for these customers coming in? So yeah, so for me, it's like, I'm willing to go to people if I have to. I want to travel, a few hours away and go to different stores or go to people's houses or go to different coffee shops. And that keeps me feeling fresh and kind of excited. That's been one of the biggest things that I found out about myself. I'm an introvert, but I love being around people. And when I get to try stuff on, I get to have fun trying things on. That's that's where I really feel more like alive.
That's so cool. I just read a good description of introversion recently, and it made sense for me because I always thought I'm an introvert, but if I spend too long alone, I get really down really quickly. So I do need people around me, but I also really need my own space and I need a lot of quiet and processing time. So the description said that introversion, it doesn't mean that you just want to be on your own. It means that you go inwards before you go outwards. So you need
Yeah.
a little time like that. But whereas extroverted people will seek to go outwards first and then they'll go inwards. So
Yeah,
that
that
makes
makes sense. Because I mean, I grew up as an only child, and I spent a lot of time just with myself. Uh, you know, where we lived in the countryside, um, it was just, like my mom could just put me outside, and I'd be just outside by myself for hours. But I'd find my own kind of fun with that,
yeah.
and and that's still something that I adore. I still
Mhm.
love to go like for walks with myself or do things like that, and that gives me my time to kind of like think about, okay, where am I going with this? Especially now with the business, I'm like, um, what is my next step? Or but I never want to think too far in the future
Mhm.
because then you get overwhelmed
Yeah.
in some way. So I want to make sure that I'm like thinking just about like what is my next step and how do I go about it and what are the right avenues to find that next step. You know, I started this business finding places and people that I feel comfortable with,
Mhm.
and that has been the biggest, I guess, support of this business was like going to coffee shops that I know, being like, hey, can I do a pop up here? Or going to, my friends that are tattoo artists or barbershops and finding the people that I know will, maybe support this, but also support me and then grow the business that way. And then I build my confidence that way. So
Yeah.
that was the first step. So like, yeah, so now it's that I'm finding like new people are finding me, which is fantastic. And now I'm like, okay, how do I, because of social media now, there's a lot more people that are messaging me from like different areas that are like 3 hours away, 4 hours away in different provinces as well. I'm like, okay, so how can I get to them now?
Mhm.
Because they love this idea of sustainability. And so, okay, so what am I going to do? Am I going to go online? How am I going to like go about this? I'm going to open my license up to the province one over from me called Nova Scotia, and get in there to like a few thrift stores and a few little pop-ups going there. And yeah, just kind of always moving.
That's cool.
If I'm sitting here all day, yeah, I just don't feel like I'm living. So you have to work. Everyone has to work.
Yeah.
But how do you make it work for your own personality? And you know, it's it's not a long life. So I mean, you can work 40 years in the same job and go there Monday to Friday and be miserable. Or, for me, I'd rather take less pay and be happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
And
mean, I left jobs that were like paid well to do this,
yeah.
and this has been so rewarding for me.
Yeah. I've always had to be my own boss as well. I've done the whole, contracted for a certain number of hours per week, but I felt very claustrophobic always in that. And I always
Yeah.
had my eye on doing something more creative. So I love that I'm able to find a balance now that I'm
Mm.
self-employed. And I've kind of always been entrepreneurial since I was a kid.
Well, for me too, it was one of those things. Like I was very bad for always, I guess, trying to like put myself up against other people, or sometimes like, am I proud of myself, or are my parents proud of me? Like it's been a drive that was like for a long time, being like, where am I going with my working life? Finding the confidence to kind of go out on your own has been for me, very eye-opening in my journey of like being happy.
Yeah. How do you find, as an introverted type person, and everyone I speak to is also introverted, all the entrepreneurs on my podcast will say absolutely 100% they are introverted, and they and me find that the hustle and the social media aspect feels at odds with our nature, where we just want to be authentically ourselves. But I feel the need to promote myself online, and I find
Yeah,
on social media I'm constantly comparing what I'm doing with what other people in the same area are doing. How
right.
do you find that's a challenge as well for yourself?
Yeah, because I don't put myself out there on social media as much as I should. I look at other businesses owners that do that, and they do it really well. Like they're the face of their business.
Mhm.
For me, my product is the face, but yeah, I'm trying to find my balance. I'm trying to like slowly find a way to kind of incorporate who I am into this business. Now, when people come in, it's great. You know, we get to chat, we get to have fun, but being online, like just through, you know, Instagram or doing an Instagram live video or kind of doing that. Yeah, I mean, even doing this is, it's been like, you know, I think I was up at 6:30 this morning, or maybe like 6, being like thinking about it. I'm gonna try to like promote who I am a little bit on social media,
That's
just so they know, you know, who
yeah,
I am, as well as, and not just my product, because
yeah,
because right now it's other people that really promote me. You know,
yeah.
I do show everything I sell and everything coming in, but at the same time, it's other people wearing my product, telling people who I am, um, which has been funny too, because when people meet me for the first time, some people thought I was going to be a 60-year-old man, you know. They had no idea, you know, and of course they can't say my name, right? So
Yeah.
they're always, you know, so that's been hilarious too. So I'm kind of like a dark man when it comes to it. A lot of people don't know who is the person behind the optical.
You totally are. Do you know what? If you kind of think of social media as just word of mouth, but you're just reaching more people on a different medium, it's still just what you do in real life, but you're filming it. So you might get someone to film
Yeah.
you talking with a client about your glasses.
Yeah.
And
See, I'm
that's such
someone.
a cool look. Like your tattoos are cool. You are cool. You're inherently so cool. So I think you would really sell your product by putting yourself out there personally.
Yeah. So for me, it's one of those things, like I'm good at, like, if I see someone wearing a cool pair of glasses, I'll go up and talk to them right away. Like, and I'm not even there to try to sell my thing. I just want to ask them about their glasses, because like, and then we start talking about eyewear, and then kind of leads to maybe my business in that way. But that's something that, like, you know, in real life, I love doing that more than anything, because I think growing up, we didn't have social media. We didn't have this kind of thing. So, you know, even when I was in optician school, uh, all my classmates were a lot younger, and they were terrified to pick up a phone and call people, because they never had to do that before,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
I'm way, way more comfortable with interacting one-on-one with people, or in a group setting, or on the phones and stuff like this. But when I get in front of, like, you know, a phone, you know, I'm like,
I
don't
know.
know how to, like, you know, orchestrate it as much as someone that's maybe 20 years younger. But
There's a
it's
real
so
cringe
important.
factor when you see yourself on camera. You have to just get over
Yeah.
it. Or you have to like
Yeah.
switch off the camera and not be looking at yourself while you're recording. That's what I do.
Yeah. But you know, I'm, you know, I talking to some people that have come in here that work in social media. Uh, you know, I had people look around. They're like, okay, I have a lot of ideas for this place, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, just let you know, like, I'm always going to be small. I never want to get big. I don't want to have. It's weird to say, because I know as an entrepreneur, sometimes you want to have, like, you know, a business that grows, that you're going to have employees and stuff like this. I never want that, because I love my product so much that I feel I'm the only one that can really do it justice,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And if I had someone working here all day and I was just off my own, I think I'd be bored, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Like,
Yeah.
I love this, you know?
And I think
Um,
when you scale up a bit too much, you have to sell out and you have to compromise on some of your ethics
yeah,
as well. So that doesn't
yeah.
appeal to me either. I like what I do.
So,
I like the
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. And I think, like, and and this is, you know, for in this area, this is such a very different optical. And so people like that aspect. Is this kind of speakeasy kind of like, or like, like kind of like underground optical. I had one person be like, I don't want to promote you because I love that it's like so like underground and people don't know. And like, I'm like, oh no. She says, I will promote you. She's like, I'll take your cards and give them out. But she goes, there's a part of me that's like loves it that this is so underground. And like I'm wearing a pair of glasses that people have no idea where they came from.
Yeah.
Or like, so yeah, so that's been kind of, and I get that. I get that aspect of being like this, like it's kind of like a new band,
Yeah.
and you get that first album, and it's like not a lot of people know about it, and then that album blows up a bit, and you're like, oh well, I knew them before they were cool, Where I don't want to compete, I want to be in my own lane,
Yeah.
and this is my lane. So I don't know where this lane is going to go because like there's no roadmap for it.
That's what I was going to say. Is anyone else doing what you're doing using dead stock frames?
Dead stock, vintage frames, not really. I found out recently there was someone in Toronto that's doing it. And he kind of like, he's an older gentleman and he does this as well. I'd love to reach out to him. When I saw his Instagram, I'm like, I like that he had like vintage and fine eyewear. And I was like, ooh, fine. Like, that's really cool. So what I'm doing now is I am finding also pieces that yes, are made new, but they're made the old way of making glasses, so they're made in Italy or made in Austria, made in Greece, but the quality is still that of what it was like back in the 60s. And, so, and I'm finding it from not reps or not distributors, but I'm finding from independent people that have this eyewear, so a pair of glasses that I found recently would go for like 500-600 in the States or here in Canada. I'm not selling for nearly that much, and the quality is still amazing. So it's vintage, dead stock, and then sometimes a little bit fine eyewear. So it kind of can switch things up a little bit because I never want to be pigeonholed just in one thing. If I can find a cool pair of glasses that, was made in the last like 5-10 years, but it's still dead stock, I'll still like grab it.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. I love that you're keeping unique to your own vision and you're not trying to copy anyone else. And that's the problem.
No.
I'm putting myself out there a bit more online. And as soon as I got a website up for my business, I had somebody copy me and literally like almost copy and paste my images, my imagery, my color palette,
Yeah.
model. And the problem is staying true to yourself and also not having anyone come up behind you on your coattails. Well, look, we're going to have to wrap it up. I see we've only a few minutes left, and I
No
have
worries.
2 questions that I ask all my guests, if it's
Oh,
okay.
here we go. Yeah.
Fun getting to know you questions, right?
Yeah. Hey.
Was there a book or movie that made a big impression on you?
Yeah, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna pick a book that's like I think a lot of people probably know, The Alchemist.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that one was
I've
really
read it,
good.
but I remember it was big when it
Yeah,
was
Paleo, or what's his name? Paleo, Calio, yeah,
Hello.
Cilio, yeah. That book. I mean, it's a book of fiction,
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's like the journey of this one individual going through and the people he meets and finding, meaning and finding what he wants in life. Yeah, so that was great. And I think a movie like I'm gonna pick. I don't know. Do you remember the old movie Stand By Me?
yes, I only watched
Yeah,
it with the kids.
yeah. I love that movie. I feel like that there's such a character development of those kids, as the movie goes on. And it's such a serious undertone for what they're, going to find and
Yeah,
their journey with it. But they're
yeah,
still kids at the same time, but they're trying to navigate throughout life and in their small town. And they know there's a whole world out there and they're still trying to like navigate it and just, be kids at the same time, but also have this like serious thing that they're doing, this mission, this adventure.
yeah.
And I think that it was from a short story called The Body that was made by Stephen King, and then it was like moved into a movie, but turned into a movie. But yeah, I think those are like very important to me.
I love that one too. It's really good. It still stands up. Okay, what's your favorite meal? If you had to pick one meal.
Anything with pesto. I remember when I was in Australia living for a year. I mean, geez, backpacking, you eat terribly. But I was like, probably you drink more than you eat for sure. But I remember working at a restaurant or like a cafe, and I was a dishwasher, of course. And I remember the guy would make me this like risotto pesto, and it was so creamy, it was so good. And then when I got back to Canada, I started really making meals for myself. So I make my meals probably about 90%, 95%. I make meals for myself. Like I don't eat out often.
Yeah.
And that really taught me to kind of like, okay, I can do this. I can kind of like mess around with stuff, but I still love pesto to this day. So, give me that, like, if I can find that old cook and he can make me that chicken risotto pesto or whatever, I'd love that again, because it's such like I was eating like terribly in Australia. It's like I said, drinking more than eating. So when I had those meals, those good meals, they mean so much to me.
Gorgeous. Yum. Okay. Do you have a motto for life? Is our second last question.
Yeah, it's just don't compare yourself. Like that's been for me the one thing that I had to stop doing, was comparing where I was in life versus someone else my own age.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that there's no end of the race. There's just like all these detours.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay if you work 10 jobs in your life. It's okay if you have 2 jobs. So so don't compare yourself. I know it's hard nowadays with social media. It's hard, but yeah, just go down every path you can, and don't compare yourself to someone that's right beside you.
Yeah, because we're all on our own path, and you don't know where they're going to end up, and you wouldn't want to go where they're going if you knew where they were going to go. Finally, what is your idea of perfect happiness?
Perfect happiness, like in a day-to-day life of what I want to do,
Yeah.
kind of thing. It's funny because I remember during COVID, and I was working that district manager job. I talked to like a therapist for a little bit, and I was like, and she was like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I kind of want to run a vintage optical, and I want to travel 6 months of the year to different places around the world to grab eyewear and bring it back and still work." She goes, "Even if I won the lotto, I would still want to do this because it gives me a purpose, and it gets me to interact with people, and makes them happy." And so, I may not be traveling 6 months a year finding eyewear, but at least I'm here doing this. So for me, it's just the adventure of like finding things and showing these things to other people and making them excited. And that's really is my happiness. I'm a lot more happier than I was maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. And it's all because of like just baby steps of finding my niche in the world.
Yeah. And I love what you've done. You've taken a very traditional career, which could have been a very boring 9 to 5 career path.
Oh yeah.
It's so creative. You made it so unique by following each little step that felt good to you and felt intuitively right. I love that.
Yeah.
A minute or so left. So where can people find you, Ciarán, if they want to get in touch about getting
get me on Instagram, so Eyeful Things.
I will link that in the show notes.
Yeah. Hit me up directly if you need to. Like, my Instagram is Ciaran.McCarthy. I don't use Facebook as well as I should.
So I will link all your links below. You can send them to me.
Yeah, sweet. Oh, this has been so much fun.
Thank you so much for meeting me today. I really enjoyed it, and I'm delighted to hear how successful you're going.
And I'm gonna get over to Ireland. I keep saying that. It's been 16 years.
Oh wow! Well, we will have a good pint or two.
Yeah, amazing. No, that's perfect.
Thank you so much, Ciarán.
All right, cheers. Take care. Bye.
Take care. See you soon. Thank you for joining us here. Check out the links below to follow Ciarán online. I think his method of baby steps really frees us up from getting overwhelmed about the bigger picture. The result is a really successful business model where his passion and integrity shine through. Have you caught up with our previous episodes? There's something for everyone this season. Don't forget to rate this podcast and share it with your friends. Catch you soon.